Hey, welcome guys. Today, I'm about to share a story that will literally send chills down your spine. Seriously, while you're listening to this story, you'll start to feel like something is moving around you. Because this isn't just a story, it's a terrifying experience that sometimes blends with reality. You're sitting there, relaxed, but before you know it, a dark secret pulls you in. You won't want to see anything, but something is getting closer to you. Are you ready? Because the story I'm about to tell will pull you deeper with every passing second. Make sure to subscribe, because by the time this video ends, you'll definitely want to hear more. Let's dive in. The ticking of the clock on the wall was so distinct, it felt as though each tick reverberated somewhere inside me. However, the clock wasn't working. I knew that. Like a closed box, time seemed to have stopped in this house, cloaked in the desolation of the street. Something was wrong, but I couldn't quite understand what it was. My name is Ava. I've been here for a week, looking after my mother's old house. The house looked abandoned, but there was always something. When night fell, being here alone was terrifying. The inside of the house was like a museum and nostalgic, yet eerie. Every corner was filled with relics from the past. A cracked table, scattered rugs, bookshelves. But what caught my attention the most was how every room, every wall, and every item seemed to carry traces of a life that had been here for years. Everything had a story, but no one had ever told me what that story was. Not my mother, nor my father. I told them I'd spend the night here, but truthfully, I was scared. There was always a disturbing silence in this house. Despite being abandoned for so long, something still seemed to be alive here. After a few sleepless nights, one morning, I noticed something strange for the first time. It was 3:04 a.m. My eyes were heavy, but I didn't sleep. I saw a shadow behind the large closed window in the living room. Everything seemed to be made of shadows at that moment, but one shadow stood out. Sharp, distinctly human eyes. Just the eyes, with no other details. The eyes were staring at me, with a deep, empty gaze. The eyes. It was as if they were trying to tell me something without words. I noticed the air had grown colder. I shivered. When the shadows disappeared, I held my breath, frozen. It was so clear, those eyes were watching me. At that moment, my entire body trembled with fear. I remember the first night in the house. The silence was so deep that even the creaking of the old planks in the attic sent chills down my spine. I heard sounds on the wall, a faint tapping, as if someone was quietly walking around the house. Throughout the night, without finding where the sounds were coming from, I curled up in my bed, terrified. By morning, the house was completely empty, as if nothing had happened. But that night, the strangeness increased. I experienced things that day that at first I thought might be the result of an overactive imagination. Sometimes, just as I was about to turn a corner, I would suddenly hear someone's name. A scream or words whispered. They even said my name once. I began to feel that this place had turned into some kind of trap. But my mother always told me, when the past tries to remind itself, don't listen. This morning, as the day began to break, I noticed something. The eyes were still everywhere. Suddenly, they appeared on the wall, large, wide open, staring with an emptiness that wasn't human. I didn't know what to do. The eyes would disappear, but then reappear immediately. Whenever I dared to look into the room, the eyes would appear at the very corner of the wall. Without leaving any trace, they would vanish suddenly. They were watching me. Every moment they watched me, I felt a weight on me. Within just a few hours, I realized that everything here had changed. It was like being drawn into that old house, like those abandoned towns by the river. Quiet, but light as a feather, yet deadly. They were watching me. As evening approached, I carefully locked the windows and tried to stay silent. But nothing could be hidden. The eyes had disappeared, but something was going to find me again. At that moment, the atmosphere in the house seemed to suddenly change. Fear was something gnawing at me. Perhaps it was the shape of those eyes. Slowly, the eyes had always been there. And suddenly, I heard the faint tapping from the kitchen. It was 3:17 a.m. The tapping was clearer, as if someone was scraping metal with their hands. In such a silent house, these kinds of sounds couldn't be natural. Panicked, I made my way to the kitchen, feeling a tightness in my chest with each step. Every corner of the house seemed to press down on me. The kitchen was dark. When I turned on the light, there was nothing. No ghost, no creature. But strangely, in the corner of the opposite wall, there was an old rusted pot. A pot that had never been used in the kitchen. I had never seen that pot before. At that moment, I felt something slowly revealing itself in front of me. It was so clear that the pot was trying to tell me something. Similarly, I felt like everything in the house was trying to tell me something. As I quietly approached, I heard a footstep behind me. A silhouette slowly disappeared into the darkness. "Who's there?" I asked, my voice trembling, but there was no answer. All that was left was to examine the pot. The pot was empty, but there was a kind of faintness to it. Something alluring. Something was there. Before I could figure out what it was, the fear inside me felt almost intoxicating. Suddenly, the eyes began to appear throughout the room. The same eyes, never stopping. These eyes came together to form something. A creature, like a shape resembling a human, but made from darkness. And those eyes, one last time, looked at me. Then, "You're here," I said, feeling a chill in my bones when I heard their voice. "You found me." A laugh filled the room, spreading between the walls. A loud, sharp sound. But no one would ever hear that laugh again. Because that night, the eyes and I would remain together forever in this cursed house. And that's it for today, guys. That was such a mysterious and creepy story, wasn't it? If this story gave you the chills, you're not alone. I'm still getting goosebumps. If you want to hear more creepy stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel, because we'll be back every week with fresh, spine-chilling tales. Also, if you like this video, leave a comment below and share it with your friends. Let's scare them too. And until our next video, I hope you want to learn. Remember, fear isn't just a story. Sometimes it can be real. See you soon. Wishing you creepy days ahead.